Hey everybody, hope you're all doing well. So today we are going to be looking at a show that is brand new to us, The Taming of the Shrew. As always, the monologue is in the description below, so take a moment to pause me, read it, and then come on back. So, The Taming of the Shrew is a problematic play, similar to The Merchant of Venice, in that when we look at it through our modern lens, our modern viewpoint, we look at what goes on in this play and go, ooh, not great. And the thing that is in this play that is really not great is the sexism in there. And let me basically give you the plot. So this plot centers around Petruchio and Caterina, who Petruchio basically forces Caterina into marriage and then proceeds to break her spirit until she becomes the quote-unquote perfect Elizabethan wife. Yeah, he commits abuse. There is no getting around that fact. That is how it is written. And so you look at this from the modern perspective and you might have to ask yourself, well, why does anyone produce this play anymore? And I think a lot of people who produce this play look at it not necessarily through that view, but look at how do we tackle this challenge? How do we make this play that is clearly showcasing something that is morally wrong? And how do we tackle that? Now, honestly, that being said, this play is not often done for that very reason. Because most people look at it and go, there's no need to perform it. It has this morally repugnant thing, and we shouldn't give it more time. Others will take it and say, well, let's take a look at how these characters actually interact with each other. Let's take a look at how they can possibly build up. I saw one production that Caterina held her head up high, and at the very end, when she is quote-unquote the perfect submissive wife, it turns out that it was all a ruse and that she and Petruchio were in on it to win a bet. I have seen one where, while yes, the things that he does are still horrible and awful, but Caterina kind of likes it. And that's a whole other discussion that I'm not going to get into on my YouTube channel. So we'll put that aside for now and talk about the monologue that we are looking at. So in addition to Petruchio and Caterina's story, there's a secondary plot regarding Caterina's sister Bianca, who, according to their father, cannot get married until the elder sister does. And the thing is, nobody wants to marry Caterina, everyone wants to marry Bianca. So essentially, once Petruchio marries Caterina, the whole wide world opens up and is trying to marry Bianca, including but not limited to the subject of our monologue, a young man named Lucentio, who arrives in the city of Padua for the very first time on the day that the whole play starts. And he basically is shown up with his servant. He's like, I'm touring the world on daddy's money learning and growing and basically becoming a better human being. And then he sees Bianca and goes, well, enough of the whole learning and growing, becoming a better human being. I'm going to marry that girl. And there's a whole thing that he does where he pretends to be a tutor to be near her and all sorts of shenanigans. But Lucentio's first entrance into the play is a monologue where he is admiring this city. And that's the one we're looking at today. Is this monologue is being in Act 1, Scene 1 super important because it sets up where we are. It introduces him and some stuff that's going to become important much, much later in the play, including his father's name. It also sets up where we are and some things about the environment, because this play takes place in Italy. And a lot of Shakespeare's plays take place in Italy, and it was a very common location for him, and he always had to describe it, though, or at least give the audience some idea of where in Italy they were, because obviously his audience was in England. So yeah, this was his opportunity with this monologue to kind of introduce the character, introduce what the character's about, give us a good glimpse into him. And in this monologue, you kind of see that he's a dreamer. He's somebody who has these high ideals and high hopes. And he's just enamored of the fact that he gets to be out in this big, bold, beautiful world. So let's take a look at him. Tranio Since for the great desire I had to see fair Padua, nursery of arts, I am arrived for fruitful Lombardy, the pleasant garden of great Italy, and by my father's love and leave am armed with his goodwill and thy good company. My trusty servant well approved in all. Here, let us breathe, and haply institute a course of learning and ingenious studies. Pisa, renowned for grave citizens, gave me my being and my father first, a merchant of great traffic through the world, Vincentio, come of the Bentivolii, Vincentio's son, brought up in Florence. It shall become to serve all hopes conceived, to deck his fortunes with his virtuous deeds. And therefore, Tranio, for the time I study, virtue and that part of philosophy will I apply that treats of happiness by virtue specially to be achieved. Tell me thy mind, for I have Pisa left, and am to Padua come, as he that leaves a shallow plash to plunge him in the deep, and with safety seeks to quench his thirst. Yeah, that should give you a brief idea of how kind of floaty Lucentio is. It's also interesting to note that Lucentio is telling something to his companion that Lucentio and his companion already know. Again, this is part of Shakespeare's whole I have to describe everything, and you actually see this today in movies and TV shows where a character will say something that the other characters in the room should already know, but the audience doesn't know it yet. It's a terrible little writing thing, but it's sometimes necessary. Anyway, we'll see you tomorrow with a new monologue. Hope you have a wonderful day. Bye!